All right, we have another model sent in by Sophie Jameson, and before I comment or critique on this, I would just like to give a little info on sending critiques in the future for everybody. So please don't send me ZBrush projects, ZPR. Please only send me ZTools or ZTLs. The way you do this, in a lot of software you think, oh, file, save as, and you just click that and it saves your file, right? But if you look over here, Sophie, you got a ton of just extra 3D models in here that you probably don't need and probably aren't, very conducive or helpful for you. You might want to save these out in some kind of version control as separate ZTools, or if you want to save out a ZPR, by all means go ahead. But the file size ends up getting really bogged down by a lot of this stuff. So instead, go up here to Tool and click on Save As, and that will save out only your active Z tool and all the subtools within. It'll save polypaint and everything else, so you should be good. Typically, the only time I save ZPRs or ZBrush project files is when I am trying to save undo history, if I'm going to make some kind of time lapse later, or for some other odd reason that I need my undo history. That's pretty much the only time. Another thing is that it sends all of your settings in here, and it makes it very hard for me to work with. So please, ZTools only. No slight against you, just in general, ZTools please. Alright, Sophie says, hey Follygon, I'm a professional 3D artist and animator, and I'm trying to move over into character sculpting. I've been using ZBrush for years, but never really spent much time on characters, and would love to improve my anatomy knowledge. My anatomy knowledge, there's a period there. My anatomy knowledge isn't great, but I'm learning a lot watching your videos. Well, awesome. I've attached a model I made while following along with your stylized female head tutorial on YouTube. If you could critique it, that would be amazing. I tend to get to this stage with all my head sculpts and have trouble figuring out what needs to be fixed or improved. If you could help me out, I'd really appreciate it. Hope you're having a great day. Well, of course I am. Any day I'm here in ZBrush is a wonderful day. So let's go ahead and take a look at what you got. I actually think you have a lot of good stuff going on here, but there are a couple things that we would like to take a look at. So let me see what you got here. You just remeshed this. That's fine. I think you're at this stage in a lot of this where I would say now is the time where you want to start softening some of your plane breaks and starting to transition forward. But there is one area or a couple areas here in your face that probably could use some correction before you start doing that. Namely around here in your kind of coming down around your nose and your mouth. Right now, the feeling that you have on your face is that your nose is shooting kind of forward off the face, and the lips kind of feel a little bit the same, kind of giving it this duck-like appearance. Kind of have this pinch kind of wrapping around here. I'm exaggerating it so that you can see it a little bit better. And I'm going to turn off your poly paint here so we can kind of continue working on your face with my material. But yeah, let's see. You got some subdivs in here, so that's really nice. I would just think about the planes of the face a little bit more. Typically in these types of stylized faces, what I like to see is a nice line coming up from here and just kind of wrapping around towards the general eye direction. And what that ends up doing is it gives us a situation in which we can start getting a little bit more volume here in the cheek. You said you were following along with my stylized female head tutorial. I've done too many head videos and I can't think of the exact one that you're talking about. But once you start kind of getting some more of this volume in here, I think then you can start working on fixing how some of the depth here is feeling around your nose. Remember that your eyes, nose, lips, ears, all these things, as you start to put them on top of your head, will affect the overall shape of your character's face. And we want to make sure that the underlying form is, still retaining there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull back on your lip corners a little bit. Try to get away from that really weird pinched feeling we were getting there. And then let's just play around with your nose here a little bit. There's a few things going on here. I'm going to do this while simultaneously working on what I mentioned a little bit ago, which is starting to soften some of the plane changes in your face. I don't want to do too much at once here and confuse you or anybody else watching this. So essentially what I'm doing is just where some of these forms are a little bit too hard and sharp, like where we're transitioning into the neck, I want to start softening these up. And I'm going to do this simultaneously while fixing some stuff in the face, specifically around that nose, mouth region. So we'll start to kind of play around and soften some of this up. Let's see, we got some weird kind of jawline-y stuff going on here. So we'll start to play around with defining that a little bit better. And let's turn on perspective for a little bit as well. I think you've done a pretty good job with your eyes. I like a lot of the stuff that you got going on here. And I would recommend that you start thinking about edge quality in this area up here as we start to transition into the face, so that it doesn't feel super sharp. So we'll start to transition this area as well. And I think this will all kind of help you in this area of your face. So a lot of the time I like to get a line coming down off the lower lid, wrapping around, and then out the chin. Right now though, because your lower lid is protruding so far, we end up with a little bit of an awkward area here in the cheek, which is why I'm trying to push back on those corners of the mouth a little bit more and start to fix some of the roundness of your face. And we're getting there slowly but surely, but this is probably something you're gonna spend a lot more time on than I am here. Just doing this stuff pretty quick. Come up here into your nose bridge and start to soften some of this form. It's where it's feeling a little bit too sharp. And let me fix some of this area around the nose. Start to just plane out, make sure that we're getting some nice shapes here. A little bit of a sharp plane change, but in all honesty, I don't really mind it. Kind of got like a nice pixie shaped nose going on here. Play around here. Get a little bit more volume in some of these areas. I think the overall shape of your lips is pretty close. There's, a couple of things here as we wrap down and around into the corners that we probably want to define a little bit better. But other than that, I think you got a lot of the basic plane changes in there. You probably want to get a little bit more depth in where these connect. And I typically find that creating a mouth bag is more helpful for that kind of stuff. Let's see. You can kind of fake it a little bit just by pushing in and maybe using something like a damn standard brush. Just kind of cut in a little bit. Start to get some more volume around your cheek corners. Typically what I will do is add in a bunch of volume, and this is a lot easier to do with a mouth bag, like I said, and start to use a move brush, maybe with like AccuCurve, to really push in on that corner of the mouth, and ends up giving you a nice kind of fleshy feel. And do it a little heavy-handed here at first. Geometry is not really cooperating, but that's okay. We'll start to get that at least heading in the right direction. All right, so work on those mouth corners, just work on the general shape, mainly in this area. I think we've started to fix some of the planes here around the face. And I don't know, some of this is just a little kind of heavy-handed, over-defined. I'm just gonna play with the shape of your lips and work on this transition up here as well. So it's a lot of little things that kind of add up into a whole, but I would say the main thing that I would focus on, again, is just starting to soften up some of your form where it's a little bit harder, and then really try to pull back on your mouth corners, start to round out those cheeks, that area coming down and around the nose, right where that kind of connects up. Starting to feel a little bit better. And start transitioning up through here a little bit more. And we'll just kind of do a quick little softening up through there as our surface is getting a little bit dirty. But again, like I said, the mouth bag I think will help you a ton with figuring out this area, give you a little bit more form to work with. I think you said you were an animator, is that correct? So I think you probably understand the idea of a mouth bag. In ZBrush though, the way I typically go about creating something like that is by slicing off part of my face, and then kind of creating the open geometry in there, opening up the mouth, and then dynameshing those two halves back together. I don't think your topology is anything sacred here. It looks like it's just Z-remeshed, which is a pretty good Z-remesh actually, other than some of the weird stuff going on in your lips. So you got pretty lucky on that. But yeah, I don't think your topology is too sacred to you. So you could probably work on that for a little bit and then remesh later. Play around with that. Got some weird shapes going on in the back of your ears. Probably just want to fill this in and wrap that back around. Give it a little bit more volume. Transition between your cheek and your ear a little bit better. Let's see. I think the overall shape of your head is fine. Maybe some stuff in the jaw that I would play around with. And maybe the top of your head is a little bit small. Typically have pretty large heads. I think once you might help you to put some hair on this and start kind of blocking out and figuring out how that frames the face. I find that to be pretty helpful. And I would work on the angle of your neck a little bit too, just to get that head in the right direction. Get rid of a lot of these really sharp creases that you have in here. Unfortunately, I think that's going to take a Dynamesh to clean up a little bit through there. All right, so that's like a lot of stuff, kind of all over the place. I tried to just give as much as I could while kind of doing a quick sculpt over of this, but hopefully just watching was helpful. I don't know if what I said was helpful. Hopefully it was, though. Hopefully it gave you some ideas to kind of start pushing this in a better direction. I think that'll be enough just kind of sculpting over a lot of the stuff here. Again, just to kind of reiterate, soften up some of these forms and really think about this area. It's starting to feel a bit better. It was just feeling like it was really kind of stuck on, and then it was like pinching and pulling the rest of the face forward. It might need kind of like a major tweak here of just placement. So just kind of like moving that forward. This is probably something that I would play with for a while. Maybe look up if you're going for like a really particular style, like Disney-esque. We're probably a lot closer now, but maybe find some reference for their silhouettes and try to match that a little bit closer. Maybe getting a little bit too thick over here. I just keep noodling. I keep saying I won't noodle anymore, but we'll say that's good. Again, I hope that was helpful for you, and I wish you luck moving forward on this, Sophie.